Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another FYI webinar. My name is Sarah Abulughed, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the Family and Youth Institute. We're happy to be hosting this webinar tonight on the brink of the blessed month of Ramadan. Before we get started, I'd like to mention a little bit about the organization, the Family and Youth Institute, and then I'd like to introduce you to our speakers for the evening. FYI stands for, like I said, the Family and Youth Institute, and is an organization that's been around for about 9 years. The first phase of the organization was mostly research-based, with a focus on issues and trends in the American Muslim community. These projects and studies can all actually be found on our website, which is www.thefyi.org. FYI continues to do research currently, and right now we're focusing on areas that include convert Muslim youth as well as Black Muslim youth. In this next phase, which we're in right now, we hope to translate that research into opportunities where we engage and educate the community using hard facts and research-backed information. This webinar tonight is actually a manifestation of that. Inshallah, what you will get tonight is good, solid information that is backed by research and molded specifically for the American Muslim context. If you're interested more about the FYI, we'd appreciate if you check out our website and also like us on Facebook. Again, the website is www.thefyi.org. And we'd also love it if you would share this information with your friends and family if you find it interesting and useful. Tonight's webinar, as you know, is titled Ramadan Readiness, and our speakers will focus on how to prepare as a family. There is much focus on what the individual can do or should do in order to prepare his or herself for this blessed month, but fewer resources on how to approach this season as a family. Tonight our speakers are inshallah going to give us tips and ideas on what we can do to motivate one another, kids and parents alike. Before I introduce the speakers, I'd like to give a quick rundown of how the webinar will work, inshallah. Brother Nadeem and Sister Duaa will present back and forth for about 45 minutes, and if possible, we'll leave the remaining time for questions while the webinar is live. If you're watching it via the YouTube link, you actually won't have this option, but you're welcome to write in the question on the Google Plus page that you link to get to this screen, and I will be happy to relay the message to the speakers, inshallah. And without further ado, I'd like to give a brief background on our speakers, and then we'll get started, inshallah. So our first speaker is Sister Duaa Haggag, and I'm going to present her to the screen. 1 second. And then I'll pull up the bio. Assalamu alaikum. Duaa Haggag holds a master's in counseling and works in a private practice as a child, adolescent, and family therapist. And the private practice is called Silent Sunlight Counseling. Her counseling experience includes working with youth and their families in both the school and clinical setting. She has extensive experience and training in group therapy for adolescents and play therapy for children. Her research interests include child and family development, attachment parenting, and parent education. She has presented psychoeducational workshops on youth development and parenting at the local and national levels. And our second speaker, inshallah, this evening is Dr. 1 second, while I pull this up. Dr. Nadeem Siddiqi, and let me introduce you all to him. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
All right. Are you popping up on the screen there? Oh. Some technical difficulties. 1 second. All right, inshallah. There we go. All right, so Brother Nadeem Siddiqi is a board member of the Family and Youth Institute, and he holds a Ph.D. in finance and works in the area of retail banking. He's also trained as a marriage educator, and he's presented parenting workshops and has worked extensively with Muslim youth, primarily through the Muslim American Society and the Muslim Students Association. He has been extensively involved in community activism at both the local and national levels for about 20 years in both Canada and the United States. He has a wide array of interests and he has a wide array of interests and serves on the board of several nonprofits, including serving as the current chairman of the Muslim American Society. And without further ado, I'd like to hand the screen over to Sister Duaa to begin the presentation. Thank you very much.
Actually, I think I'm starting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mixed memo. So let's see. Go ahead. There you go.
All right. You can see my screen now?
Yes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen. It's a great honor to be with everybody tonight as we are just on the cusp of Ramadan, this plus month that we've been waiting for. And we thought it would be a good time for us to stop and reflect as to what we want to get out of Ramadan from our family. Now, Ramadan by itself is an amazing time for renewal and rejuvenation, but most of the time, a lot of it is for individuals. Is for the husband on their own, for the wife on their own, for the father, mother, the kids. Everybody does their own thing, and we sort of encourage one another, but by and large, these are individual activities. And then what happens is sometimes some individuals are very successful in moving forward, and others get left behind, knowingly or unknowingly. Because of the pressures that are put on them, because of the expectations that are put on them, or perhaps they just don't know how to really benefit spiritually from Ramadan. And as adults in the house, as the parents in the house, we have a responsibility to make sure that all of our family members are growing and developing and benefiting from Ramadan. Not just because of the fact that these are trusts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us on the Day of Judgment about, but we genuinely care about our family members. We really want them to improve and increase, inshallah. And furthermore, we also want our family to develop and become stronger. And if you have one family member who's growing and developing really strongly in a particular direction, let's say, and another family member is not growing at that same rate or in that same direction, over time, this is bound to create differences of opinion. There are different levels of practices, different understandings of Islam may emerge, and then you're going to start to have frictions within the family, and therefore family problems can erupt. And so it's critical that we use every opportunity we get to strengthen the family bonds, not just within this bonds by itself, but understanding and practice of Islam itself. So within this webinar today, inshallah, we'll have a couple of goals that we want to do. One, definitely on an individual level, we want to increase spirituality, but we want to do that at the family level as well. Second, we want to enhance family bonds. Do everything that we're doing, but do it in such a way that our family bonds become stronger. Third, help to improve our understanding and practice of Islam. And fourth, create positive habits within the family that will, inshallah, stay with us beyond Ramadan. That will become really habits that the family adheres to and help to strengthen and really build a family all year round, inshallah. With that, I'll pass to Duaa.
Do all of you guys see my screen? Yes?
Nope. Yes.
Now. Okay. Good. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Okay, it's a little hard for me to do this because I'm used to seeing all your lovely faces, but I'm gonna go ahead and Let's start. What Brother Nadeem was talking about earlier is not something that's new in our prophetic tradition. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that's something that he himself practiced with the people that are around him, with the people that are in his community, and even with the younger ones, the younger people that are around him. There's a specific story that comes to mind of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He goes to Mu'adh ibn Jabal and he says to him, he takes his hand and he says, "Do you know that I love you?" And while he's holding his hand, he tells him, he teaches him a dua after salah. After salah, he holds his hand and he teaches him the dua, Allahumma inni a'inni ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husna ibadatik. So he's teaching him, "Oh Allah, help me remember you and thank you and worship you as you deserve." So he's teaching him this dua as he's holding his hand after the salah, and so he includes this child, he includes this young man in the process of the dua of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what we should do as a part of Ramadan. Ramadan is a time where we are coming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we can't leave our families behind. It's a responsibility that we need to do, that we need to take care of, and the Prophet ﷺ did it. And it's narrated that in the seerah that Mu'adh, because he remembered this, the Prophet ﷺ doing that with him, that he carried on that tradition and he taught it to so many people afterwards, as he spread Islam and spread the deen. So this is something that the Prophet ﷺ teaches us, that it's not just a matter of focusing on myself, but also those who are within our circle. So as it says, thinking of we rather than me, in every step, every activity, every process, we want to be able to make sure that everyone in the family is able to grow and to benefit, and that the activities that we do with them in order to connect with Ramadan and connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is age appropriate. We can't really expect a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old to be praying all the rak'ahs of Taraweeh, but we can get them in the mood, get them in the feeling of why Ramadan is important and how we can connect to the Creator, so that it's a memorable experience. It's something that will stick in their minds, and that eventually later on, as they grow older, they'll be able to connect in a different way with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whether it's a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old or an 18-year-old, there should be the discussion and the question should be tailored to the age level, and we'll get into that in more detail. So before we actually begin, I know there's probably maybe two days till Ramadan starts, but some of the suggestions that I would, even within this first week of Ramadan, that we could do with the kids so that we can really expose the kids to this festive mood, to this happy mood, to the celebration of Ramadan. In this mainstream American society, when the kids see other holidays like Christmas, like Easter, and they see their friends, how excited they are about their holidays, they see all the lights, they see, the music, everything around them is very festive and happy. And so lots of times these kids, they make this comparison, and this is something that we can instill in the kids, that Ramadan is just as fun and just as memorable and just as beautiful. And so there are many ideas, and I'm sure as a family you can come up with so many more ideas, but these are just suggestions in terms of what you can do to really welcome Ramadan in the home. One of the suggestions that I think would be a good idea that would help with the children is to have decorations. When I was a kid growing up, we kind of had to purchase things, the Christmas decorations during Christmas time, and then just keep them until it was Ramadan or Eid. But nowadays there's so many companies, there's so many online sites that you can purchase Ramadan decorations if you don't have time to make them your own. Or now there's so many blogs and places where you can even find art ideas in order to create your own decorations, and you can get crafty about it. So you can either make your own or purchase your own, and to decorate the home so that the kids get excited, and to involve them, whether they're a teenager to a young child. Involve them. How do you want to decorate the house this time? What do you want to do? Where do you want to hang it? And a lot of people focus on doing just the indoor decorations, but sometimes sometimes it really helps to do the outdoor decorations as well, because it gives you it opens the door up for discussion. It allows people to share with their neighbors the celebration of Ramadan. And so, oh, how come you guys have lights up, or why do you have a lantern in front of your home, or why do you have this banner? We like to decorate our door on the outside of our house. We put lots of colorful things on the door, and so even our neighbors and the kids in the neighborhood, they know it's Ramadan. We have something special going on. And so it gives you an opportunity to really have that kind of discussion, and for your children and to be proud, and your family to be proud of this festive or this important holiday, and to share it with the neighbors. Another idea to do for before Ramadan or during this first week of Ramadan is to create a shopping list, whether it's food or items that you like to have in the house for Ramadan, and to include the kids in this list. What do you want to have for iftar? What do you want to include? What would you like to eat? And to have a specific outing where you go together as a family with the kids and pick out those specific items that they really, really enjoy. And you know, a lot of people come up with the idea of having a calendar, a Ramadan calendar, where they have goodies each day, where the kids can have goodies each day every time they break their fast. But even with the older kids, you know, sometimes there's just this, you know, there's this tradition, like in Ramadan we always get to eat this. In Ramadan we always get to eat this. We always get to have this special meal. So for the kids to look forward to that, to really do that and look forward to that. So creating that cooking list, that schedule. A lot of times for the women, prepping food, and even the men, with prepping food for Ramadan, it really helps to be able to prep it up, get it ready, put it in the freezer. That limits the cooking time, and to involve the kids and the families to cut up the food and put it into the freezer. Another really good idea that I like to do with my family, and it really helps with silat al-rahim, or connecting the family ties, is to all together as a family, you want to be able to come and sit down and focus on calling family, so going on Skype or phone, calling relatives that may not be in your city or your vicinity, and to be able to say, okay, let's call this uncle, let's call grandma, let's call grandpa, and let's tell them Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem, and really have the whole family be involved in talking to relatives. Let me just make this a full screen. Is that better? Okay. So okay, I got it a full screen. All right, so to be able to call families and relatives far away, there really is something special about all of us together, sitting together as a family and calling relatives that may not be in the vicinity. Another idea for getting ready for Ramadan and really getting the kids in this mood is to create a goal sheet, to explain to the family and to really have this discussion that Ramadan is an opportunity for us to really change ourselves, to really be able to put together this plan so that we can get rid of those old horrible habits that we don't like, or to really instill these new habits that we'd really like to achieve. And sometimes what I like to do with my family is we pick one character weakness. We pick one thing that the kids feel like they're really having trouble with. Like, I have a hard time controlling my anger, or, you know, I just have a hard time with procrastinating, or I really want to work on my Qur'an reading. So to be able to pick one really important thing that they'd like to change through the course of Ramadan, and to create a goal sheet and to say, okay, what do I want to achieve with this one specific habit? And to also include other things to have specific categories. So, how much Quran do I want to read every day? What would I like to do in terms of charity? What would I like to do with my relationship with my siblings, or my relationship with my parents, or even with my neighbors? So to be able to create that kind of goals sheet, and that we all talk together as a family in discussion of what would we like to achieve. And I think we'll talk more about how we can follow up on that as Ramadan goes along. But that's another idea that we can do together. Another really great idea that I remember doing when I was a little girl was really having a gathering where you invite close family members or friends, where it's kind of like a pre-Ramadan party, and the kids, you can have contests. When we were kids, we used to do like poetry contests. The kids could come up with some plays or skits that revolve around Ramadan, create homemade decorations together. Even some families really like to come together and just do the food prepping, like the getting ready for Ramadan, putting it in the freezer. They like to do that together. So that itself, the kids, what stays with them are these traditions, with these ideas, these memorable experiences that really instill in their mind, Ramadan is such a great thing. I can't wait till next year. They're not going to always get that perspective of, oh yes, it's completely, of course it's the month of Qur'an, but we want to be able to make it festive enough for them to look forward to it, so that when they get older, they can direct their attention more to the more spiritual aspect of Ramadan.
If I could cut
Yes.
in, just a comment on that. So,
Yes.
so a lot of what Duaa is saying is not just for the younger kids, right? So you have to keep in mind that even for the older kids, if you have teenagers at home, if you have college students at home, the same thing applies to them as well. When you're doing the food preparation, have them all involved as well, because that is a great time for people to be talking about Ramadan, for people to be bonding, reminiscing what they did last year, preparing for what's to come this year. So it's not just for the little kids to come and help mom in the kitchen. No, it's for mom, dad, and all the older kids as well. If you have a mix between older and younger kids, the older kids are setting the trend for the younger kids and saying, no, this is how it works, and it really is good. It's going to be awesome this year.
Yes, I agree. And it's just like with the example of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, just having that feeling, that relationship. It's all about that relationship. So another idea is, not everybody is a visual, relationship, social kind of person. Some of us are auditory, and we need to have those type of memories. So another suggestion is to play the anasheed or the songs that may be Ramadan specific, to lay out maybe magazines or books that are Ramadan specific. And there's a resource that we'll be providing with this presentation, or maybe afterwards. Is that right, Sarah? Where there's a list of suggested anasheed and books that you may be able to share with specifically your younger children. All right. So what happens at iftar time? Lots of times we're just kind of tired, and the day is long, and this year it's going to be pretty long. So we're just kind of sleeping or laying around, and we're just waiting for the adhan to start, and then it's like everybody just comes to the table and eats. So we want to be able to use that buffer zone right before iftar, where everybody's just kind of waiting, 30 to 60 minutes before iftar. It's a really great opportunity for us to develop and to strengthen those family bonds, and to use the opportunity, instead of everybody just sitting around and just lazing around, to be able to use that as a way to connect the family together. And there, I would suggest that the cooking should be done before the iftar, an hour before or 30 minutes before. There shouldn't be any homework or specific individual activity. There should be an opportunity where we're really working together as a family in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and connecting with the Qur'an, really having that spiritual sense. So it could be something like sitting together and reading Qur'an, reading a few verses, reflecting on the day. How was your day? Going over your goals sheet. Making dua, and we have there's another slide coming up in terms of dua specifics, but really having everybody really share what's important to them, what dua is important to them. And I would suggest that during this time, that whether it's dua or Quran or any of those things, that we really address each and every one of our family members by name. I'm making dua for Ahmed. I'm making dua for Fatima, because I hope that she overcomes this one weakness of hers, and really making that connection with our children so that they feel that bond, they feel that connection right before iftar. And Nadeem, if you want to add anything, feel free. Okay. So what about Quran? What are some ideas? What are some ways that we can help our family connect with the Quran? It's really important that sometimes, we're really focused on making sure that we finish our juz, or we make sure that we finish the Quran by the end of Ramadan, that we're so focused on ourselves. But then again, we have other people in the family who may not have that motivation. So to be able to involve them in that process. Like we said before, sometimes we get so caught up in the food, in the preparation of the food, that it's so elaborate. Sometimes we have people over almost every other day. And so my suggestion is to pencil in your calendar, maybe once a week you have an outside of the house iftar. Or if it's not an outside of the house iftar, you're having people over. But sometimes we get so caught up in the masjid iftar and so houses iftar, and or even inviting people over, that we're so overwhelmed and so busy with getting ready for the food that we forget to leave time for us to really enjoy the Quran and have our family enjoy the Quran with us. Sometimes there's some other creative ways to really connect with the Quran instead of just simply reading. Sometimes there's so many options out there in terms of videos and episodes that you could watch with regards to the tafsir of the Quran. Maybe there's one specific surah that you'd really like to cover with the kids, Surah Yusuf, or any surah that you think that you'd really like the kids to know the meaning of, or your family to share in the meaning of. And you can watch the tafsir. We like Nu'man Ali Khan's videos. It seems like it's very family friendly in terms of the age gap, whether it's the younger kids, starting 7, 8, or the older ones, 17, 18. But there are also other cartoon episodes and episodes in the Shade of the Quran series. There's so many different ones out there that you can use the opportunity to have the kids sit down, watch together as a family, and to really discuss and explain those specific passages with your children. And I think now I will pass it on to Nadeem.
Okay, one thing, if I could add on the Quran topic, just as we mentioned, one thing we want to do in Ramadan is not to only do individual activities. You want to do group activities. So the fact that everybody is individually reading Quran in their own room is okay, it's good. At some point people want to really focus and do it. But, if you have that time, as I was mentioning, half an hour before iftar, an hour before iftar, even if people don't want to watch videos, they just want to read Quran together, just sit at the dining room table and everybody read their own individual Quran, or collectively read the Quran. But you turn Quran reading into a collective family activity rather than just an individual activity. And thereby you support one another, inshallah. Let me share my slide here. Let me see what I'm talking about next. So, Tarawih prayers. We're all going to be, inshallah, praying lots of extra prayers in Ramadan. And especially for the brothers. We get to go out to the masjid and pray Tarawih in Jama'ah with the rest of the community. What about the rest of the family? Focus again is not just the individual, but expanding that to focus on the family growth and development. And especially if you have younger children. If you have older children, then everybody can go out to the masjid together, inshallah. But if you have younger children, then is one parent getting the short end of the stick? And you really want to ask yourself, is really one parent getting, and usually it's the mother getting the short end of the stick. And if you're the dad, you want to ask yourself, on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you and hold you to account that you were responsible for your family, you were selfish, you did things for yourself, but you left your family behind. Why didn't you think of them as well? So how can we do it in such a way that everybody benefits? Well, there are different things you can do. All right? You can take turns. Oops, what happened here? All right, I'm going to keep talking. But you can take turns going to the masjid. And for example, in the first rak'ah, the father goes and prays, and then if he's able to come home, if you live reasonably close by, you can come home. And then the mother goes in the second rak'ah. And so you both take turns looking after the kids. especially if you have very young kids, and now Tarawih being quite late, the kids can be sleeping at home. It could be that if that's not possible because the masjid is too far away, you can alternate and go on different days. On day one, the father is going, and day two, the mother is going. And you can do it that way. And keep in mind, again, that it's sorry, my screen's not coming up. Or coming up? Oh, there you go. It's up now. You can do it on alternate days as well. Please keep in mind that Tarawih can be prayed at home. And many of the scholars actually say it might be better to pray Tarawih at home. So just praying in the masjid is not always, the best thing. Sometimes if you're praying at home, you really get tested. If your concentration is there, if you're able to pray the 20 rakahs, are you really praying for the spirituality, or are you just coming along to what everybody else is praying? So this is some ways that you can try to make sure that everybody in the family benefits from Tarawih, inshallah. Dua. Ramadan is one of the best times to make dua. As we know, the dua of a fasting person is more likely to be accepted. And so we want to encourage ourselves and our family members to be making lots and lots of du'as. Dua mentioned this earlier as well. In that quiet time that we have just before iftar, if we make that a family tradition, that the hour before iftar, everybody has to be at the dining table. Nobody's allowed to be in any other room. Whatever you do has to be at the dining table. You can read Qur'an, we can have discussions, we can make dua, but everybody has to sit there. We can encourage people to make dua. I mean, it can be silent dua, or you can ask one person to make, each person around the table to make one dua out loud. Whatever it is that they want to make dua about, right? And so person 1 makes dua, everybody says Ameen. Person 2 makes dua, everybody says Ameen. Person 3 makes dua, everybody says Ameen. Then you can go one step further. Person 1 makes dua, everybody says Ameen. Then you ask, can you explain to us why you chose to make that dua? Why did you make that dua? And this can become a really great tool to especially teach not just the younger ones, but the older ones as well. Because, I mean, the older ones are half the time not thinking either. Is that, this dua is something that you have to be conscientious about. You have to really think about what it is that you're saying. It's not some random thing that some formula that's coming off your tongue that you don't really understand. So ask what it is that you're making dua about. Through your own duas as parents, as adults, as older folks in the family, the duas that you make, now you know very well that everybody else is listening to that dua. So be purposeful in the dua that you make. Really use that as a tool to teach, especially the younger ones and the others, to think beyond themselves. People are, oh Allah, give me this. Oh Allah, make me this. Oh Allah, do this for me. Which is fine. It's absolutely no problem with it. But if you want the person to grow spiritually, you want that person to think beyond themselves. So when it's your turn to make dua, you're making dua, Ya Allah, help the people in Syria. Right? A simple dua. And then your turn to explain. It's like, what, I'm comfortable. I have to think of my Muslim and brothers and sisters overseas. Ya Allah, help those who don't have water downtown. Ooh, why are we making dua for people downtown? They don't have water. What happened to their water? You're triggering questions in other people's mind as to why they have to think beyond themselves. And you're going to be making dua all month long. So this is a great time to bring up all sorts of different topics. Whether it's Islamophobia, whether it's social justice, Black Lives Matter, what happened in Ferguson, in New York, in Baltimore, anywhere else. You're bringing all of this to the table in an indirect, non-threatening manner. And you're causing discussions to happen. It's like, why do we care about, quote unquote, these people? Those guys are doing this. Well, those people are our people. We should make dua for them. They are being treated unjustly. And as Muslims, we have to stand for justice for everyone, everywhere. Now, just through the one dua that you made, you've caused this discussion to take place. And hopefully you've planted a seed in people's minds that, you know what, this is something that should concern me, and I should make dua also. Similarly, oops, I'm pressing.
I think I would add also that I think it's really important that we instill in our children the idea of making dua for people that when they don't know that we're making dua for them. we're giving them that opportunity to say that we're making dua not in their presence, and that we get lots of reward when we do that, when we remember our brothers and sisters, whether it's my best friend or my neighbor or whoever, someone in my class, when we give them the opportunity to say, who do you want to make dua for, without them even knowing, that you really care about them and that you want, good for them.
Excellent. Next thing that I know we'll be doing lots of is qiyam. We'll be praying. We'll be praying qiyam, inshallah, at the masjid. And again, the question becomes, how can we make this into a family event? If everybody's not able to participate, how can we make this a family event? Well, let's have family qiyams at home. Starting to get an echo. Okay, great. So family qiyams at home. Sarah, you'll have to. Okay. Family qiyams. Okay, good. Echo's gone. If the children are older, if the family members are older, then clearly not an issue. Everybody gets together and we pray a qiyam at home. It can be a very good spiritual exercise. It can be a very strong bonding exercise. For younger children, here's a great opportunity to inculcate within them the fact that qiyams can be fun. Qiyams are good. Qiyams are positive things. And so qiyam is something that is now associated with positive thoughts and memories. How can you do that? Well, one example is you pray 2 rak'ahs that you would pray, and then you have a little snack break. Then you can read some Qur'an, pray 2 more rak'ahs, play a little game, it can be a card game, Uno or something, and then you go back and pray again. And you continue the cycle. So it's not one long continuous thing. For younger kids, it's easy for them to keep up. You're giving them different little exercises to do, and it's fun. And so the thought that they grow up with and the memories that they grow up with is that qiyam is a fun exercise. Yes, we pray, yes, we read the Qur'an, we do all this, but we also play games and we have these snacks and we do this. Qiyams are fun. It's not something that I'm forced to do that's, it's so boring that I have to force myself to stay awake. No, I want to stay awake. When is the next family qiyam? I want to do that. And you can make changes, and especially as the kids get older, obviously the quote-unquote fun elements decrease, and then you become much more focused on the spiritual elements. But by that time, the understanding of qiyam has set, and they have grown into recognizing what qiyam really is. And so this qiyam now becomes a family activity that you can all do together to bond together, as well as grow spiritually, and you set a positive memory that'll stay with you outside of Ramadan. Charity. So we give a lot of sadaqah. Many people give their zakatul mal even in Ramadan. And it's again a great opportunity to bring the family together. Quite often what the parents do is that, we have to give sadaqah, we go out and we give sadaqah, nobody else knows about it. Well, how can we turn that into a teaching tool such that the other people in the family understand and recognize the importance of charity, and we use that as a way for us to bond together? So one example that I put forward here is set a daily budget for donations. Can be daily, can be weekly. Let's say $100 a week or $100 a day, whatever your choice is that this is how much we as a family are going to donate. And every day, each person in the family gets to decide where that donation goes, or to nominate a charity where the donation is going to go. Young or old, they can be 10 years old or they can be 35 years old, doesn't matter. Everybody gets a chance. But they have to explain, they have to justify, they have to tell everybody what is this issue that they care about, that they want to give money out of their pocket to somebody else, right? And again, the whole concept of thinking beyond themselves, the fact that everybody else has a right upon you, is now being taught and inculcated into people's minds. Through your own example, the charities that you choose, where you decide to give money, you're indirectly getting an opportunity to explain to the others, these are things that are important that we should think about. The water example I was giving before, I was referring specifically to the city of Detroit, where lots of the residents of the city of Detroit who could not afford to pay their water bills had their water shut off. And that's a major problem. Obviously, without water, life is going to be very, very difficult. So alhamdulillah, Muslims came together. The Michigan Muslim Council came together, Islamic Relief pitched in, individuals pitched in, everybody came together, and they made a donation to try and help pay the water bills for the poorer folks so that their water would not be shut off. Now, if you decide, you know what, that's an activity that you want to support, or you want to support the homeless shelter that's downtown that people are not thinking about, you're just bringing to the table something that perhaps other members of the family have not thought about. And now you're expanding their horizons. It's like, you know what, it's not just overseas causes, it's also domestic causes. All of these causes, anything, everything that's happening around us is impactful. Now, one thing I want to mention, this is something that comes up with dua as well when individual members of the family are making dua, as well as this opportunity comes up when you are giving charity. And the opportunity is this, that when everybody else speaks their mind, young or old, as an adult, you get a chance to you get a chance to peek into their minds. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Sorry. So you get a chance to peek into people's minds when they make a dua for someone or something. It tells you this is something that's important for them. When they say they want to give charity to a particular cause, it tells you this is something that's important to them. And especially over time, when they build up, initially, you know, it's a new exercise, people may be superficial, etc. But as they get into this, it becomes much, much more deeper in meaning, in thought, and people start revealing themselves through the du'as that they make, through the charities that they're giving money to. And if you have not had an opportunity to build those bonds with your children, this is a great opportunity. Because now you have these little windows that are opening up into their minds, into their heads, through these activities for you to understand who they are, what concerns them, what is important, what is not important to them. If, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 times you've given the example of a particular charity that you think is important, but they still don't give money in that direction. They insist on giving to the one direction they always give at. You know that's a really important cause to them. Or they're using this to signal to you that, you know what, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm going to go this direction. Either way, these are important signals. These are windows into their minds. And then if you use it appropriately, it can really be useful to help strengthen those bonds and come together as a family, inshallah. Duaa, back to you.
Okay. So there was this, I think I'm doing this right. Hold on. Yes? Do you see my screen?
We don't see the screen, but we see you and hear you.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So there was a study done that talked about how how family relationships, one of the ways family relationships really get strengthened, I just thought of this when Nadeem was talking, is that when we share those traditions together, is that when we talk about these memories, when we talk about, remember last Ramadan what we did, and you know, Mom, are we going to take out that special Ramadan calendar from the Ramadan box? We have a big old Ramadan box in our basement, and we keep all of these Ramadan. We have this Ramadan stick and a Ramadan basket and a Ramadan tablecloth. We even changed the tablecloth at our house. I mean, we have these specific things that are just tailored for Ramadan, and when we open this box, there's something just really special about, yes, it's Ramadan, there's something, a tradition that we're going to be repeating over and over again, and this is what brings our families back to Ramadan, and brings us back to, we started off as something that's really fun, but then later on we hope that it reaches out to something that becomes more spiritual and connected with the Qur'an and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of these really great ideas that we've done once in our house before, and I know that Nadeem has tried this and with his family, is a gratitude tree. It doesn't have to be something that's so elaborate or something that's really difficult to do, just a poster of a tree, and with a branch, and each branch has one of the family members on it. And some people don't even like to do a tree, they just like to make a chart or a schedule. And basically every day everyone writes something that they're grateful for on a post-it, and they just hang it up, and we share as a family what it is that we're grateful for. And just like Brother Nadeem was talking about this window of opportunity, we see which family members have the tendency to be more grateful than others. Which family, what are the things that they are grateful for? It tells us a little bit about their personalities. And for us as parents to really instill this attitude, or this feeling of always being grateful, of having this ridla, this contentment with how we're living. And Ramadan is a really great opportunity to start that habit, so that when the kids, when they remember daily, every day, they're remembering something that they're grateful for. Hopefully, inshallah, after Ramadan, it will continue. And some people say, oh, this kind of project, this kind of craft, it sounds like something that would be for like little kids. But believe it or not, the older kids, they initially it might seem like something babyish, but when they start to do that, even us as adults, we start to appreciate, just by writing it down and putting it up, what are the things that we really are grateful for. Another really a great visual idea is to do a good deeds chain, to have some kind of competition with the family members. We're a very competitive family, so we like to do competition. And so, we have these strips of paper, construction paper, and everybody writes down a good deed that they did. Some people like to do it with stickers, but for those who are really visual, writing on strips of paper and then just stapling it, and then just making this really big chain that goes around the house. See how big you can get this chain to be. How many good deeds can you do? Can it go around the house? How many times can it go around the house? Maybe you can color code it. This person is orange in the family, this person is blue, and then you can see which color is more dominant in the good deeds chain. So a lot of different ideas that'll help the family see how they progress through Ramadan. We talked about watching an Islamic show or cartoon. You can have a hadith or ayah of the day. Like, you could put up a whiteboard in the kitchen, and then everybody chooses a hadith or an ayah that they'd like to share and discuss throughout the day. Another idea is to have a specific charity project or activism project. Brother Nadeem talked a lot about things that are happening in Detroit with the water, but to specifically have a project that you don't do any other time of the year except in Ramadan. So someone told me that since Ramadan has been in the summer, and it's going to be next year, and I believe a little bit of it in the year after, they decided that they would have a garden every Ramadan. They would work on a garden every Ramadan and go through it even if they were fasting. We've been doing the past few years like a project, like a unit study on a specific prophet. So we go all out, we do research, we do posters, but we only do this specific project in Ramadan, so that the kids have something to look forward to. Kind of like how you recycle toys and things that kids get bored of their toys, and so sometimes they have this idea that if you rotate your toys, you hide some in the attic, and then you take it out after a little bit, and you have the kids, once you take it out, after they haven't seen it for a while, they're really excited about it. They really want to play this toy. Or you keep a specific toy for the car, or when you travel. It's kind of like the same idea. You only have one project or idea that you only keep for Ramadan, so the kids, when Ramadan comes around, they're really looking forward to it. So again, just being able to review their accomplishments, the establishment of new habits, and celebrating their growth, particularly at the end of Ramadan when Eid comes around. You want them to feel like Eid is a celebration of all they've achieved and their growth, their progress, how they've connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how they've connected with the Qur'an, and how you as a family have grown together. So that brings us to the conclusion of our session. I just want to kind of do a recap, a summary of what we've talked about. So we basically talked about activities that are normally done individually in Ramadan. We've talked about this. We've given suggestions on how to do that. We've talked about how that can strengthen the family bond as well as increase the spirituality of everybody in the family. And a really important thing is to make sure that these are we're creating new positive habits for the family. So it's not just something that we start in Ramadan and then after Ramadan is over, it's just like a flop and it's over. But we want to be able to continue whatever it is that we started. We say, okay, maybe we don't have iftar, you know, every day, but maybe we can set aside a time every day to read Qur'an as a family, or set aside every day to watch that episode, or create a goals sheet every month. Something that we've started in Ramadan, we want to be able to carry it on after Ramadan. And it may seem like all of these things that we've talked about may seem really simple, really easy to do, but it's really about the meaning behind it, why we're doing it, the fact that the family members, they need that change, they need that ability to see Ramadan at their level, and to be able to experience those traditions and those bonds through those activities that bring us all together. And it's not as easy. If we were all doing the same thing and they were all different ages, it wouldn't click with everybody in the family. And so this is kind of an opportunity for us to kind of brainstorm and talk about some suggested ideas for us to bring the family together during Ramadan. It's really important that we don't focus on ourselves as individual, but to be able to set aside some time and really think about the family as a whole. It's not enough for us to just focus on ourselves. Just like Nadeem had mentioned earlier in the presentation, we don't want to keep running and our family's behind, and then we wake up one morning and there's this huge gap. We don't want that to happen. We want all of us as a family to move together. And when we create this transition over this traditions and these memorable experiences and these experiences of growth, as our children grow, they'll look forward to it. They'll come up with their own ideas, and hopefully when they have their own family, they're passing on this tradition of growth and progress and connectedness and spirituality with their own families. And then we grow together as a family, and then they pass it on. Inshallah, by doing this, we're increasing our level of taqwa, our level of God consciousness individually and together as a family, inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. At this point, we are hoping to open it up to questions. If you're able to, based on how you're viewing this, you should have a box at the bottom of the screen where you can type in a question if you have one. If that is not showing up on your screen, you might be watching it as a YouTube video right now. And so what you can do instead is, if on the Google Plus page that you link to, you can actually just write in the comment section, and I can read it out loud to the speakers, inshallah. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to kind of locate that, if there are any questions, and then if not, I'll close, inshallah, in just a few seconds. So let's see. All right. All right, I'm not seeing any questions on the Google Plus page. So inshallah, I'll just wrap up, just to kind of, first of all, just thank Jazakallah khair to Nadeem and Duaa for taking the time to share these tips and ideas with us. Personally, it feels very good to be getting prepared for this blessed month, not just as an individual, but also taking these ideas and kind of implementing them as a family. The things that we traditionally get connected to as a personal practice in Ramadan, which are like what you mentioned, Qiyam and prayer and Qur'an, can and should be expanded to each of the members of our family. In this webinar, we learned a lot about the importance of making this month very special through creating family traditions, and how family relationships can especially be strengthened during this month. One of the ideas that I really loved was the idea of taking, because Ramadan is in the summer, these next few years, inshallah, taking that opportunity to plant a garden and having kind of a Ramadan garden. I think that's a wonderful idea, especially since there's oftentimes it's hard to find the positives of having such long, hot summer days during Ramadan. I know I for one am looking forward to taking some of these ideas that both of you gave us and putting them into practice, inshallah. So thank you both very, very much for joining us. And I wanted to let everybody know that I did link the Ramadan resource page to the Google Plus page if you'd want to take a look at it now. Otherwise, I will be posting it also on Facebook, and you can link to it. And we put together a list of children's books that are specific to Ramadan and Eid, as well as a bunch of links to Ramadan songs and nasheeds. So we look forward to you enjoying those, and we hope, inshallah, to see you at our next webinar or at one of the events that we have coming up in the near future, inshallah. Again, Jazakallah khair for joining us, and you'll be able to link this video and share it with friends and family if you'd like once the broadcast is over. Again, Jazakallah khair, and talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum.